going to be a tutorial on this classic fall glam that I am wearing right now. I know, you've probably seen a million videos with a neutral eye and a bold lip, but I just had to throw my version of it out into the mix. In this particular case, I know that this eye look will flatter pretty much any lip color you throw with it, and there's a good chance if you don't have the colors, like the exact brand and the exact colors that I have, you probably have something pretty close to it, so I'm almost positive everybody's gonna be able to create this look. I decided to keep the inner corner really light and bright. I thought it would kind of balance out the darkness of the lip and kind of the extreme depth that we have in the outer corner. But as always, you can adjust this to fit your face and your preferences as you please. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please thumbs up if you do enjoy it, and make sure that you subscribe to stay up to date with everything that I upload in the future. And in the meantime, I love you more than you will ever know. Bye. Alright guys, we are starting off with an eye primer as usual. Today I'm using Soft Ochre from MAC, which is why it looks so yellow. Normally I use Painterly because it's a little bit more on the pink side, and my skin is definitely much more pink than it is yellow, so please excuse the slight yellow tinge. It does end up working itself out towards the end of it, but I always apply it with a brush and smooth it out with my finger to make sure it's nice and blended. Then I'm going to go in with a concealer that's a little bit lighter than the rest of my skin tone. It obviously doesn't look much lighter now, but when it's finished, it will end up looking much lighter by contrast. I do this to kind of create like a guide to make sure I don't take my eyeshadows too high. And at the end of it, it also arches up my brow a little bit more. And when I put my brow bone highlight on top of it at the end of the look, it really does give it a nice definition and a lift to that part of my eye. And then I blend it into the paint pot with a brush. As our first color, we are going in with Makeup Geek's Peach Smoothie. Obviously, I love this. I need to get a new one. And I'm going to start off by working this in the outer corner of my eye with a fluffy brush. I think this is a MAC 224, but Sigma makes one just like it. I'm sure Morphe makes one just like it. And as far as the eyeshadow is concerned, you can use any color that you want. Just make sure that it's a little bit warm and make sure it is the lightest color you go in with throughout the rest of your look. As you can tell, I am perking. I am packing most of this color in the very outer corner of my eye, and I'm working up in a diagonal motion up towards the inner corner of my brow. If you have hooded eyes, small eyes, or flat eyes, this will really give an open look at the end of it, create definition, and help move on with the smoky effect we're going with. But if your eyes are more round or big, you can definitely just go in your normal kind of inverted C shape. Then I went in with Anastasia Beverly Hills Burnt Orange, and I'm doing the exact same thing I did with Peach Smoothie, but I'm keeping it a little bit lower, and I'm focusing a lot more of that pigment on the outer corner. You can take this as deep and dark and smoky as you want. I really went for it because I wanted that extra oomph and extra glam factor in the outer corner. Just make sure you're blending your colors together. Then I took this Makeup Forever color. It's M-738, but you could use Brown Skip, Cocoa Bear, Moracco, any of those colors. There's tons and tons of shades out there like these colors, I promise you. Just make sure you take an even smaller brush than you had before. Focus it mostly on the outer corner of the eye. You don't want to take this up too high. If you notice, I'm really only keeping it out there in the very far corner of the eye. It doesn't go up towards my brow bone at all like the other colors did. And then I'll go in with a clean brush with no additional product to make sure that I soften up the outer edges. Then I'm going in with Deep Plum from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I love this color. It's much better than like a traditional flat brown color. I really enjoy the effect of it. And once again, notice my brush, because I made it a point to do the kind of exaggerate the motion right here. I'm fluffing it in towards the inner part of my eye. I'm not going any further than my pupil, and I'm going in like a kind of like a backwards triangle shape. Back and forth, back and forth. You're not going any higher at all than the rest of your colors. That needs to be the very lowest. Then I clean up my shape with a makeup remover wipe just to make sure it's nice and crisp. Then I'm taking this isn't actually a paint pot, it's from Maybelline. It's one of their cream color bases, whatever you want to call it. It's shimmery. It's not like a flat ivory color. It's got a little bit of a glisten and a sheen to it. And I'm putting this all over the mobile part of my lid. Most of the saturation of it towards the inner corner of my eye, and I'm going to blend that out just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And I'm going to go over top it with Pink Champagne from Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is like my favorite lid color of life right now. Now, the reason I'm doing this, laying down a different paint pot underneath the shimmery color, is if you find that your shimmery colors tend to move, especially if you have hooded eyes, Whitney speak. If you have hooded eyes, they will kind of crease and move around and not stay where you put them. This prevents that from happening. It also gives it a nice pop of glimmer on top of it. To put a shimmery color on a shimmery paint pot, it really takes it to another place.
Then I'm taking Venus from the Naked 2 palette and highly arching out my eyebrow and using it as my brow bone highlight. And then I'm taking the black from that palette and I am just kind of smoking out the outer corner. You can skip that step, but I just wanted to make it a little bit more glam and smoky. And then I'm doing my gel liner. Nothing special here, no wing, no flick, just lightly lining it so that my false lashes blend in. And before I do false lashes, I always curl my lashes and then I put on mascara. I will do a lash video for you guys. I have an idea on how to make it really cool and interesting and not just a typical one, so stay tuned. Speaking of lashes, we are doing Bella from Koko lashes. They are one of my favorites. I stick my eyelashes on with tweezers. Some people do it with their fingers. I'm kind of mystified by people that can do that because I am not one of them. That's how I get those babies on there. Then I prime my entire face with Too Faced Hangover Primer, and then I'm going to take my Smashbox Pore Minimizing Primer, and I'm going to put that on the areas that I get the most oily, which are my cheeks, my chin, my nose, my forehead. I like to mix my primers and layer them, but I don't want to put 2 primers all over my face because that can be a little too much product. And then I mixed my Too Faced Born This Way foundation with Hourglass Immaculate fluid on my brush, and I'm going to work this all over my skin with a Real Techniques. I don't know why I'm such a stuttering Stanley when I go to film, but I swear I'm normally much more eloquent than this. But I'm going to work this all over my brush and put it all over my face. Clearly, it is a different color than my face, but it matches my body. You do not want your head and your body to be 2 different colors. They need to look the same, or you have something called floating head syndrome, and it's not good times. Just try to get it as good as you can. My face is always much paler than my body because I self-tan my body and I never self-tan my face. And I also use a liquid exfoliant on my face every single day, so it will always be much paler. This is just how you gotta do it. Then I hit it with a beauty blender to make sure I absorb all the excess product. Make sure it's blended. It's not sitting in any weird creasy parts of my face. I recommend this. This is how you make sure you do not get cakey or your makeup doesn't kind of seep into fine lines and wrinkles throughout the day. Then I'm taking my concealers, which are NW20 and NW25 mixed on my brush, which is also from Real Techniques. I did not intend on using that many Real Techniques brushes in this video. It just worked out that way. And I'm just using my concealer to highlight my face. If you've watched my videos before, you kind of have an idea where I'm going with this. I always like to quickly explain like kind of what I'm doing because I definitely need to make a dedicated video about this. But I assure you, even though it looks like I'm putting on a lot of product, I am not. I'm putting on very thin layers of products on top of each other and putting them in very strategic places, and I blend them out and absorb excess product with a beauty blender much, much more than you actually see throughout this video. And if you're thinking to yourself, cheese and rice, Whitney, that's an awful lot of crap on your face. We're just doing makeup. It's not that serious. When I film a tutorial, I'm teaching you how to do your makeup as if you were getting ready to go to an event. You want it to look good in pictures. This is not makeup that I wear to go to the grocery store. I'm usually team yoga pants, homeless, messy bun all day, but for the video, we go all out. I'm blending this out with my concealer beauty blender. So I've laid the concealer down underneath my eyes, the bridge of my nose, my forehead, my cupid's bow, and my chin. And I blend this out with my beauty blender for a good, I don't know, probably all over my face. Ends up blending for about 3 minutes. You want to make sure it's seamless and it absorbs product. That is the #1 mistake people make with concealer and with cream or liquid products on their face is they don't get off the excess. Your face should feel almost tacky as opposed to wet before you set it with powder. I'm lightly setting those areas of my face that I'm going to end up baking on top of with my Laura Mercier translucent powder, and this is just a little Real Techniques brush. Excuse me, there's that hiccup. You knew it was coming. I always do this now because I find that if you just go in with your baking powders on sort of slightly damp concealer, it can kind of ball up on top of it or not lay right or look a little cakey. But if you lightly lay a layer of powder down first and then bake on top of it, it's so much easier to clean up later. It looks a little bit more smooth and photoshopped and perfect. I highlight the very bridge of my nose super, super thin like that because I kind of like reverse contour my nose, and I only contour my nose, I've said it before, because with the rest of my face is contoured and my nose is just kind of flat and shapeless. It looks weird. While those cooking powders are setting, I am going to bronze the parameters of my face using the MAC Care Blend powder in dark. I'm just going to hit this on the very outer corners using a kind of a fluffy powder brush. This one's from MAC as well. And then I'm going to hit it on my jawline and a little bit down my neck just to kind of bring a little bit of that warmth down to the rest of my body. And then I take a more precise brush to bronze up the very, 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 very outer parts of my face and my cheekbones, acting as a transition color for my contour color, which is Harmony from MAC. And I take this little MAC brush And I use the very tip of it to carve out my cheeks ever so slightly. I try to keep, it looks like ever so slightly, right? Like on camera, it looks a lot more bold. I promise it's not so large in a charge in person. But I do recommend keeping your contour as far towards the back of your face as you can. I feel like sometimes if you take it too far in, it looks a little bit more masculine than we want it to. And then to quote unquote contour my nose, I just take a small brush with face powder on it that's the same color as the rest of my face. It's not a bronzer color, it's not a contour color, and I run it along the sides of my nose where that highlight powder is, because that ends up being just enough of a definition and contour that I don't have to add too much darker colors on my nose and look really obvious. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Now I am cooking the bottom part of my contour. I do this part last. So like I do my contour and then I put my cooking powder underneath my contour, and that will sit there while I finish with the rest of my face. But the other powders that are already on my face are coming off right now. Cooking really just locks in your makeup for hours, and it definitely gives a nice brightening, lifting effect. I don't think it looks as obvious or unnatural as like a banana powder or something like that. I'm kind of overusing things like actual highlighting powders now. It'll probably just be the cooking method from here on out for me. Now I'm going to do my bottom lash line. This is an important part of this look. I do it in every look, but for this part, it's kind of like the main feature is this wraparound effect that we're doing with it. I am taking the M738 number from Makeup Forever on a brush, and I am pushing it all along the bottom of my lash line, and I am making sure to connect it with the outer part of my upper eyelid. You can see like almost a very intentional, harsh, if you will, like inverted triangle shape on the outer corner, and that's what I'm going for. And then I'm going to take the dark plum or deep plum shade from Anastasia and start smudging out even closer to my lash line. And then I also started creating like an opening, like hugging my tear duct, because that's where we're going to get this open, bright effect on the inner port of our on the inner port of our eye. On the inner part of your eye. You can skip this step, but I really kind of like the effect of it. And then I go in with an even thinner brush to kind of sharpen it up, and I started pushing a little bit of black shadow closest to my eye with a smaller brush. This gives us a nice smoky effect, and I tend to keep the black color on the very outer corner of my eye. And then I'm going to take this brush from MAC with that deep plum on it, and I'm wrapping it around once again. You guys can see how this technique kind of lifts up and opens up the eyes. This is why I think this kind of technique is ideal for people who have eyes like mine that are more hooded or smaller, but people with like normal awesome eyes could do it too. Then I'm wiping away that contour, cooking powder, whatever you want to call it, with a fluffy brush. Don't skip this step. Take your time doing it, in fact. And now I'm going to blush the cheeks. Today I use Anastasia Just BECCA Wild Honey blush, but any blush will do. Now I'm lining my lips with Brick from MAC. Some people can do liquid lipstick without lip liner. I'm not one of those people. Then I'm doing Anastasia Beverly Hills Heathers liquid lipstick. It's one of my favorites for fall, but this eye look, you could literally pair any lip color in the whole wide world with it, and it will match, and it'll look great, and it'll look wonderful, so just do it. Anyway, now I'm taking Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder and Mood Light. This is not showing up on camera the way it looks in person, I promise you. I'm oily, so I can't do things like have dewy foundations and no powder, and I'll get oily and gross, but if I hit my face with one of these lighting powders, it does give me an all-over glowy skin, soft focus, luminous effect, and it keeps me matte all day, and it stays in place all day. Then for highlighter, I'm going to highlight the tops of my cheeks with BECCA Opal and a fan brush, very strategically placing it. And I will do the same thing with the bridge of my nose to further give some symmetry and structure to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Let me meet it. Bye!